All right. Welcome to Mike's Real Estate Podcast. I am very pleased to have Kevin Kauffman of the 4610 Network. You and Fred have sold 4,000 or so homes. You're all over the place. I see you everywhere. You do a good job at that. You have a amazing Facebook group that I absolutely love. You have a yearly, is that right? Next Level Agents
Yep.
conference. I was able to go last year or earlier this year, and it was probably one of the best ones that I've been to. I loved every single speaker you had. So thank you for showing up today.
You're welcome, man. I appreciate that. You know, the Facebook group is awesome because of people like you who get in there and want to help other agents kind of grow their business and share the different things that they're struggling with or learning from or succeeding with. That's honestly what makes that group good.
I've been part of a lot of groups, and honestly, this is one of the only groups that I go to consistently if I'm looking for help or wanting to see what people are talking about. How do you cultivate that?
Ooh, I think it's because that's what we wanted to, you know. It's probably similar experience to you with some of the Facebook groups. Not that they're good or bad. I definitely don't want to label them, but they were not what I wanted. And so I just decided to start a group one day, literally just said, what the heck, we should start one. We thought maybe, it's funny because this was 3 years ago and we thought it was too late to start a Facebook group. We thought that kind of like trend had already, like that ship sailed.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just were like, I kind of looked at it, I was like, wait a second, if I was farming a neighborhood, I wouldn't care who was already farming that neighborhood or how long they'd been there. I would just go take it over. And so that's what I did. We just decided to go plant a flag and see what happens. And 3 years later, it's been a lot of fun.
I felt like you guys started that right when there's some drama going on with one other group. Was that kind of the impetus as well?
Yeah, because we really did think they're the big beasts, right? Big. They were by far the biggest. There's other big groups out there, bigger than ours for sure. And that was happening. I went, well, I guess if there's a good time, like now would be it. Who knows what's going to happen with these guys? We might as well at least try it. And we did. And most importantly, though, we very purposefully took a different angle from the get-go on it. And, it's hard to control that as the group grows to a certain extent. But at the same time, I think that we have so many good people in there who are willing to be real and honest and offer feedback what's going on in their business. And don't get me wrong, we get the, hey, what CRM are you using questions from time to time.
Of course.
But the reality is that that's not most of the questions, and that's not most of the conversation in there, even though it's some of it, because you just can't control it when you have, tens of thousands of people.
Well, I'm guessing you put it together kind of quickly. What was that first name you guys had for the group?
So I literally thought of it sitting on my couch on a Saturday morning, real estate agents who want real results.
REWAR.
Yes. And it was just because I was thinking, one of my things that always has been from the get-go, so it came up in the short sale days, was I cannot stand gurus. And to me, a guru is someone who is trying to tell you to do something that they themselves have never done. And in real estate, we have so much of that. We have so many people trying to sell us picks and shovels and trying to teach us to do things a certain way. And they've never done it. They never interacted with a client or with another realtor outside of what they've been trying to sell them. And I kind of felt that way about some of the groups, not all of them, but some of them were, it's hawking this or hawking that. It was selling picks and shovels. And a lot of the folks that were speaking weren't coming from a place of experience in sales. And so I just thought, I don't want those people to talk to me and talk into my business. I want to talk to other people who actually have faced the same challenges I faced.
Well, talking about facing challenges, you started right when this business was cratering.
Yeah.
So like I said, you've sold thousands of homes. You are in 4 other states as an expansion?
Arizona plus 5. Yeah. 4 other states.
Dallas, Texas, Denver, Nashville, Central Coast.
Yeah. And then Tucson, Arizona as well. So thank you for being able to count, because I couldn't there for a second.
I have it up on my other monitor, so it helps. I'm cheating. You've also got tons of partners all over the place. How did you do that going into the worst time and to build out like you did?
Well, one by one. truthfully. So what happened first is my business partner, Fred, and I started working together February of 2008. So almost 12 years ago now. And we were predominantly short sales. And it wasn't until 2014, after the short sales had kind of gone away, that we first expanded. So it was August of 2014, actually, September 1st, 2014, that we officially opened our second market, which was Denver, Colorado, with a partner there who had been someone we'd known for years and someone we were comfortable with, and the relationship, or I should say the conversation about expansion, developed very organically and very naturally. And it seemed like the next right move for all of us at that time in our lives, which I think conversation probably started around May of 2014 and took us until September 1st to decide we were going to, we're going to work together. And we had committed to basically 12, 15, 16 months of giving it a try. And so 5 years later, we're still going at it, and we're still trying, we're still learning, and still getting our butts kicked in a lot of ways, having some successes. We've had some ups and downs with it, but that's business, right? You get your ups and your downs, and you got to learn from the downs and hopefully turn those into more wins.
So, to have that much success, you must have just hit the model right at the beginning and you've never changed it.
Yeah, it's funny. The one thing I got from a mentor of mine that I will never forget, which was he said, don't fall in love with your model, fall in love with the people. So make sure you're in business with the right people, because your business model is going to change over time. If you look forward 20 years from now, if you think you're going to have the same model, in our case in real estate, selling real estate, if you think you're going to have the same commission splits and you're going to have the same, maybe even commission plans for your clients and all, like that stuff's not going to stay the same. It's just not. And if you think it is, you're mistaken. So focus on the thing that you can keep the same, which is the people, and hire and get into business with really amazing people. And so we did that, right? And truthfully, I joke looking back on it now, because man, if there's one thing I've learned, Mike, is we don't learn a damn thing from our successes.
I love that idea.
We got unlucky because the guy we hired and partnered with in Denver was an absolute rock star and made us think we were significantly smarter than we really are. To be frank with you, we had a huge amount of success right out of the gate, and it hurt us. A long run, it hurt us. It was nice, and don't get me wrong, it helped us build something, but in a lot of ways it hurt us. I wish we would have had a harder time that first year. If I could go back and change anything, I wish we would have had more struggles than we did, because there wasn't enough, and we didn't learn enough in that first year of expansion, and which then tricked us into thinking it was easier than it really is.
And so that probably made it harder to recover when you made mistakes on the second one. You're like, this is supposed to be so much easier.
Yeah. We almost quit on it. And I'll never forget, it was May. It was 2016. I was at the Greenbrier in West Virginia. It's a private little mastermind with Gary Keller and, 15 or so other expansion agents. And Fred and I were kind of having a little woe is me conversation about that second location, because here we are. We had been going at it for well over a year at that point in location number 2. And it felt like we were just barely getting by. And we were just barely getting by. And basically called us P words, like literally in front of our peers, basically called us wimps and said, if you can't handle this, like you should just quit everything. Really like challenged my manhood from a business standpoint.
Yeah.
And it pissed me off in the moment. God, did it piss me off. I was super grateful for it an hour later, but in the moment I was pissed, and so was Fred. And we're like, I think we stuck it out. Number one, because we believe in our partner who launched that location with us. She's still with us today. And number two, it was kind of like, we're just going to prove them wrong. Like, we're just going to screw them. We're going to prove them all wrong. We're going to make it work. And I think it was a combination of those things. But yeah, location number 2 was hard. It was a challenge. And it's still never been as successful as location number 1. In some other ways, it's been more successful now. But that first year and a half there was so hard. 2 years even was really hard there.
Getting called out like that, Do you think that changed your trajectory? And do you think you still would have ended up the same place, or was having a mentor call you out a good thing?
Oh, no, it was a great thing. It was a great thing to be called out on that. Um, we would not have ended up in the same place. I think truthfully that day we might have quit. We would have pulled the plug on that location. We were frustrated with the lack of progress, and we couldn't figure out what we could do to um, to move the needle. And that was really frustrating to us. Two guys that are as driven as the two of us, and who want to see results. And it's like we couldn't crack that nut. You know what I mean? We
Right.
just couldn't get past this threshold. It was really frustrating. We might have quit.
I was talking to my coach and was asking him about how he gets coached or whatever. And he goes, sometimes after I hang up the call, I flip them off. And, if your coach isn't pushing you in some ways, if they're not having those moments, you may not be being pushed enough, right?
I call those "Fu Glenn" calls. I say the whole word. It's a coin. It's a term I've coined. I have an amazing. I'm so lucky. We got a business coach December of 2010. I've had the same coach since.
Wow.
No, we've had other coaches in addition to, but I've had the same business coach since. And to this day, I still have maybe once a month, once every other month, an "Fu Glenn" call, because he just pushes on something that's so raw and needs to be talked about that it hurts. And I literally hang up the phone, quite frankly, often enough, saying "F you." And it's like, okay, I got to go to work. Let's go do it.
Why does someone who sold so many homes, have so many expansion partners, have so much success? Why do you still need a coach?
Because it's too easy to buy your own BS, man. Or maybe I'm just brainwashed. Maybe Gary Keller convinced me that I'm an quote idiot for not writing a check to a coach every month. It was November of 2010. I was sitting in a mastermind with Gary, and while he wasn't talking to me directly, he was. And at the time, Fred and I had kind of talked about having a coach. We'd kind of had some informal coaches and really more mentors. And I've always sought out mentors in my life, so that's never been hard. But I think we were being cheap about it, truthfully. And Gary said, "You're just an idiot if you're not writing a check every month to a coach." Now, looking back on that, I could go, yeah, he's trying to sell his coaching service. And he was. And it was right. He was right, in my opinion. It was impactful, and he was right. And as real estate agents, most of us make too much money to pay a coach, quite frankly, to not pay someone to have an objective outside view of our business, to ask us tough questions, to make us stop, slow down, think through things differently than just when you're in the grind of your average workday.
I found, and especially as this world gets a little bit more virtual, we're both with EXP and that's virtual, and the offices feel like they're ghost towns and people are working more from home. You just have your own BS that you're listening to
Yeah.
all day long. And then we think that, well, my friend will tell me. I had a bunch of friends who were not telling me that I was not doing what I should be doing. They're like, yeah, that's terrible, man. It's too bad. Yeah, it's bad clients, bad market. It's to have that person. And I think we sometimes think, well, I can do it. I can do it by myself. And they miss out and they think that, well, a coach isn't worth it. A coach, or just at least somebody. I think everyone needs someone who is going to call them on their BS.
Yeah, totally. It's invaluable. I mean, I've had many coaches, I've had multiple coaches at a time, and I can tell you unequivocally that it's worth it. If it's not worth it, someone's not delivering in the relationship. Either the coach isn't qualified, which certainly can happen. That's the case in a lot of cases, especially with some of these big coaching companies that employ hundreds of coaches that, quite frankly, aren't experienced enough to be coaches, or the person being coached they're not acting it as though they're writing a check every month, and they're not putting into the relationship what they want to get out of it.
So I didn't think we'd go down this path, but I think it's important. So you've sold thousands of homes. How do you find the person? Because you're talking about people who've been there. Can the person who has not sold that many homes, that does not have that much expansion, and the success you have, can they still coach you?
Yeah, I think they can. I think it depends on what are they coaching. As an example, my coach he's not sold real estate ever. Now he's been around real estate his whole life, and he's been in banking and finance. He's a numbers and business person, but he's never sold real estate. Um, but he's an experienced business owner, and he's an experienced finance guy, and been a banker at a super high level. And so there's a lot that he can. Um, if you've never run a business, never done a certain job, it definitely makes it a lot harder to coach someone, say specifically on the subject of selling more homes, right?
Right.
However, that said, that's not like that's not a blanket statement, because I've had coaches that are mindset coaches, that are truthfully have taught me how to think differently.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of value in that. My friend Ronnie Doss, who you heard at,
Oh yeah. Loved him.
Ronnie's, well, that's a poor example. Ronnie's actually sold real estate, but he doesn't currently, and he hasn't for over a decade, right?
Right.
So now, but if I go and I need some business advice, absolutely, he's qualified to speak into my life, into my business, and I would have no qualms about writing him a check to be my coach either, because he has something that can help me in my business. Where I think we have to be careful is you get the realtor that never really got their real estate business off the ground, or just didn't like it, and so they became a coach because they didn't want to sell real estate, not because they were great at coaching or they had a desire to help other people, but because that was an easier way to make more income. And
right.
That's what I see a lot of these days. And it's not even just in the real estate space. I see it all over social media, like they're entrepreneurs, and oh my gosh, it's so, I just want to show me what you've done, show me what you've done. It doesn't have to be that you've sold more houses than me. It might be you have something different that I want, or you have a skill set that I would like to have imparted into me, or you're willing to ask me the tough questions that do move the needle.
I feel like when people are looking for coaching, they either need one of two, if not both things. And one is tactics. The other one's mindset. If you don't have the right mindset, it doesn't matter what tools you have.
100% agree with that. 100%. Yep.
So you were talking about how you change the model as time goes on. And so Phoenix was ground zero for Open Door.
Oh, yeah.
It's been there for quite a while. And so there's no agents left, right? There's no business for you to do because Open Door's done it all.
Yeah, not quite. However, it's significant, Here we are, we're recording this, and I don't have the October stats yet, but I can tell you the September stats. Mm-hmm. The iBuyers in our market bought 550 homes in September and sold 535. That's about 7% of the market. That's a lot. That is a lot of homes. So have they taken away everything? No. Are they going to? Absolutely not. But there also are significant, and it's worth noting, and it's worth paying attention to, because they will make a dent. I promise you this, if you polled every single agent in Phoenix that's had a license for, say, more than 2 years, they will all tell you that they've lost a deal to Open Door, OfferPad, Zillow, Knock, fill in the blank with whatever iBuyer company, and their feelings on it will vary. So they're there, and we have to, I don't want to say worry about them. We need to be aware, and we need to adjust and learn from them. It's weird because I get the fortunate opportunity to talk to a lot of realtors, both in person and online, whether it be through the Facebook group or speaking events or whatever the case is, or attending events. And the prevailing mindsets are, number one, it's the end of the world, we're all going away. Or number two, they're never going to do anything. And the reality is it's not either of those two things.
Well, and for the few people who are listening that don't know what iBuyer is, it's basically a company comes in and will buy a house for cash or some quick close to get a seller out of a house. And it's when the seller gets desperate, and they will often go for that. Is that close enough?
No, it's not even desperate. I mean, the reality, so like Mike, here we are over 5 years in Phoenix. You got to understand there's times when I'm advising, and I say our agents on our team are advising our clients to accept an offer from them, because it's what I think I can get them on the MLS. They're going to net the same amount. And it is because, like, the longer they're in a market and the more homes they buy, the better their pricing strategy, the better they're able to price a home, and the lower they can bring those fees down. Their fees average close to 8%, 6-7%, call it 8% nationwide. But in Phoenix, where they've been here for 5+ years, it's closer to the 5.5 to 6.5%
Oh, wow.
is the cost of the fees. Whereas 5 years ago and even 4 years ago, that average was 12%. And so the thought was, yeah, they might make you an offer that's close to fair market value, but then it's 12%. That costs a lot more than a realtor, and it does.
Right.
Whereas now it costs kind of the same,
Hmm.
and their offers are pretty consistent. Now, you can look at one-off deals and they're not good, but if you look at the whole, the 535, or excuse me, 550 of them last month or in September were good. And I bet you if we looked at them, they were all within 1 or 2% of fair market value.
So how are they making money, and is it sustainable at that rate?
I think that's the wrong question. And the reason why is it doesn't matter if they're making money. They've literally raised billions of dollars. To put it in perspective, Zillow, who already had a market valuation, a market cap of like $7.5 billion, just went out to raise, it was like another 700 million or so in convertible debt. And they ended up bringing in 1.1 million, or excuse me, 1.1 billion with a B, because their investors want, like, it's like, hey, we'll give you the money, but you have to take this much, not that much. And so the closer on is at 1.1 or 1.2 billion. This is like 5-year convertible notes. And like the demand from Wall Street and the investors is there. So the money raised is incredible. When you look at Open Door, they've raised over $1 billion in equity and over $3 billion in debt financing. So that's over $4 billion in cash that they have on hand. So they're never going to, asking like, can they stay liquid really isn't the question. They're going to stay liquid because they have the money. The thing is, on any one individual transaction, it doesn't matter. It's the whole of it. It's when we look at the 500 transactions that they did last month in Phoenix, or the 3,000 deals they did last month nationwide. And, like Open Door as an example, they'll turn 10,000 homes a month next year nationwide. Like that's a big number. And when you look at the whole of those, it's not even that can they say profitable on those, because the margins are so razor thin. They might, but they might not. But when you look at all the other services that come with it, what they're trying to do now is prove a service to the homeowner, because selling real estate is kind of a pain in the butt. No matter who you are, like even the best deal ever is kind of inconvenient. And so what they're trying to do is provide a different experience to the consumer, and they're proving that, not dissimilar than what Amazon did 20 plus years ago, and they were not profitable for 20 plus years.
But I feel with Amazon, you could see where the path to profitability was. With Open Door, if the ups and downs of the market, a recession, whatever, it seems like if there is a recession that they keep asking for in 2020, that if
Right.
prices went down, like if they did this during the downturn, which I don't think we will ever have that bad again, but I just watched it slide, and where the banks just didn't think it was worth this, and then they would foreclose, and then we'd sell for less. If the investors don't see that long-term final gain, it will dry up. But you're saying you don't think it will.
First of all, I think they have enough money already, and the amount of new money that comes into it is probably there. I actually believe a downturn, and I'm kind of in the same camp. So as you, like, I'll give that, that bias. I don't think we're going to see anything major. We're not going to see 2006, 7, 8, 9 all over again. But my guess is we will see something, and it's going to be some sort of slowdown. I think that actually makes them more valuable, because what do we don't have in a downturn? Buyers. What becomes the hotter commodity? Buyers. And they're going to be able to, my guess is they could be more profitable. Like, they've got the data. They understand how fast they can turn a house. It's so inexpensive for them to go in, buy a house, put the lipstick and makeup on it, and turn it around. They've got it down to a science, and I think that actually makes them more valuable in a downturn. Now, we don't know yet because they haven't been tested. We'll find out, but that's my hunch. Unlike, say, like a flat fee broker, kind of like a help you sell, where we already know what happens in a downturn. Those guys go away, right? That happens every time when there's no value delivered. But because their whole viewpoint is delivering value to the consumer and a different experience to them, I believe they approach it differently than any other real estate company does.
have they really made inroads in the East Coast where there's a lot of older homes which have a lot more problems and a lot more issues? Because Phoenix and some of those areas are very homogenous with the
Right.
style of home, so it's a little bit easier.
Yeah, if you were to like go look at like a location map, you'd see that they're not in a lot of those really more traditional East Coast that we'd consider East Coast. I mean, they're in Florida, but that Florida's more like Arizona. They're in North Carolina and some of these other places, but it's not like they're in Pennsylvania and New York and stuff right now. Will they get there? I don't know. My hunch is yes on some level, but you're right. Like, so when they go in, like the buy box, so the criteria of the home that they're willing to buy, call it 3-2, no pool, under 2,500 square feet, 200 to 400,000. Just example. That buy box is tight, really tight at first, right? Until they start to get their processes down in a market, and then they're able to change things, to start to grow from there. Last year, Open Door broke into Minneapolis. Zillow has since gone there as well, and that was a test because they have legitimate seasons and weather that like you have to winterize homes there, and the market virtually stops in the winter in Minneapolis, and so that was a test for them. They're doing well. They started slower there than they anticipated, and they learned a lot from it. And Zillow's there now too, and so I think when they go into that type of market, I think that might be even though Minneapolis isn't in the East Coast, that's kind of like that's a test, right? Could they go? And we'll see.
Do you think there's a limit of how much of a market share that they can get?
There has to be. I think because there's so many variables in real estate that what they want to do is they want to be in transactions where they can control as many of the variables as possible, right? That's why they start in a city like Phoenix where, you got all these master plan communities and all you got only 5 different floor plans in a community with 2,000 homes because there's so many it's easier to price, it's easy to understand the home, you know what you're getting yourself into. The more you get into neighborhoods that aren't cookie cutter, if you will, you have more variables, and that is more risk. And what we know investors don't want is more risk. So now here's what I think though. Here's the real, and this to me, this is the money lesson for all of us in real estate is what's the response that they elicit. So let's just say they never go, let's say they only got to 10%. I happen to believe they're going to get higher than that, but I don't think they're going to get, I don't think they're ever going to be like half the market. Maybe they will be, who knows? But I think what we can do is we can pay attention to what they're doing and the services that they're offering. It's just like in the insurance industry. Like I look at insurance companies, there's some insurance companies that don't touch policies that are under, say, certain dollar, a couple $1 million, right? I know people that their whole business is around servicing that stuff that's right under the buy box of these bigger companies. And my hunch is that, number one, other companies will continue to emerge. And number two, us as real estate professionals can use that to then go create other streams of income and entities and ways of servicing our clients that we don't currently do. I think we're going to have to, because worst case scenario, let's say they never get past 10% penetration. They're going to change the way the consumer interacts with their real estate transaction. They already are. And which means it's going to trickle down to us. So we're gonna have to respond if we don't get out ahead. If you don't get out ahead of it now and start making adjustments, you're gonna end up responding to it later, which is not a place I ever want to be again.
So just keep adjusting your model to whatever the market's showing you, right?
Yeah, it's back to that the shift book. The market never dictates if you can be successful. It just might dictate your strategy.
Yeah, I like that. So I don't want to keep you too much longer, but do you have a moment to talk about any plans that you have for the Next Level Agents 2020?
Yeah, we're kind of in heavy planning mode on that right now. So we're excited for it. This will be our 3rd annual conference. We're going to hold it in Scottsdale, Arizona this time. So it'll be April 23rd, 24th, 25th in Scottsdale, Arizona. It'll be our 3rd annual conference. It's basically a 2.5-day kind of like pre-event stuff happening on Thursday the 23rd. And then 24th, 25th, so Friday, Saturday is like the actual main event. Some of the best speakers on the planet, as you know, more importantly, the best attendees, like as much good stuff as we have on stage there, it's the conversations that we find ourselves in the hallways and the different masterminds that are put together. I know we put together 2 different masterminds on the side before the event started last year with some different agent friends of ours that were just super valuable to us. And so we're excited for it. I think we'll be releasing some names of speakers soon. We've already got a handful of them committed and locked down. And we're expecting 800 people next year. So
Really?
we're excited for that. Yeah.
Nice. So where can people find you? Where would you like them to look if they want to find out what you're doing?
Yeah, maybe one of the easiest places would be kevinandfred.com, just kevinandfred.com, or inside the Facebook group Next Level Agents. You could also just go to the web page. We just put up a URL recently, nextlevelagents.com as well, which will link people to the tickets, link people to the Facebook group as well. Kevin and Fred will do the same. And I'm pretty active on Facebook, at least inside the group, not as always on my page. I try to be. But in the group for sure. And you can find me on Instagram too, or Twitter, but watch out. I say really inappropriate things on Twitter. It's kind of like my free for all.
I have your own space, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I'll just let the F-bombs fly on Twitter. I don't do it as much on Facebook.
Well, what would you like? I think there's a lot of new agents that are on here that I talk to. What parting words would you like to give for brand new agents?
I think for brand new agents, find mentors. Number one, don't listen to everybody though. Okay. So you've got to pick your mentors, but you got to understand there are hundreds, if not thousands of ways to succeed in this business. And, Mike, you might be successful one way and I might be successful another way. And therefore someone you've got to be able to use a filter for yourself to go, you know what, I'm inclined to do that. Like I'll just tell you, I'm not the guy I don't door knock. I will never door knock. If I have to door knock for business, I'm going out of business. But I know people that crush it door knocking, and that's their deal. It's one of the reasons I started my podcast was just to highlight all of the different ways that we can be successful. So find a mentor, but be really clear about who you are and what you're willing to do repetitively every single day. And then, because the sooner you get clear on that and you start doing those repetitive tasks that will bring you business, the sooner you're going to find success and balance and not have to go through that roller coaster that so many realtors go through in their career.
Wow. Thank you so much for your time. This is great stuff. Is the iBuyer, even though I've taken a class with you that illuminated some stuff that I hadn't really thought of in that way. So thank you so much and look forward to doing this again.
Hey, thanks a lot, Mike. I appreciate for having me on, and we'll talk to you again soon, bud.
All right.